Hello. Hello. Who are you trying to reach? Nope, not even close. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. You get to hold my phone because for some reason, how do I'm going to put this on airplane mode. That way it's not going to.
This one that is messing up.
Oh. Because we have plenty of chairs. Yes, we are not like room bound here. So it's just going to be. Just making sure I've got it on silent, but it invariably rings anyway. I don't understand. And yeah, my son explains if it's people that are in my favorites that they can if they, yeah, there's something, I don't get it. And if they're your emergency contact, it will come through no matter what. Michael Hellickson, I was at a presentation that he was doing, and he always gives you the warning that if your phone goes off, he's going to find you or he's going to answer it for you. So my son, who is one of my emergency contacts, calls and my phone starts ringing and I'm like panicked because of course Michael just really, I mean, he was on me like white on rice, and answered the phone and it was my son, and I had to explain to him that you can't, it's just the way it is. It's an iPhone. Well, now they have to be for it to really come through if they're an emergency contact, like my son Mark. So if it's labeled as an emergency contact, somehow if it's a favorite, then, and if they call twice or something, I don't know, there's some, I don't know, some stupid rules for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have, it doesn't have the graphs and things like that. Everything is, but pretty much everything is there. So it's, the goal, my goal is, and I guess I'm going to tell all of you that, is to give you something that you can walk away and do it. So, because, the first thing I thought of, like last year, there was one on podcasting and I'm like, oh, never happened. I can't do that. But in this case, I'm going to give you a formula. So, huh? Oh, you're his. Oh.
Oh, me. Yeah, well, one day. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm coming because I have a marketing manager who's very talented and bright, but hasn't made us any money.
Well, exactly,
Having to learn,
exactly.
make
Exactly.
business.
And I was stunned when you know, I was stunned when we ran the numbers. And I had no idea that that's what we were doing. And now that I know, I can continue to evolve the program. But it hasn't stuck so far. So, so.
Yeah.
Hmm? Oh, okay. Are we, I think we need to get started. Oh, it does things like this. Oh, right, cool. I thought it would just show the whole slide. But basically, this first slide just tells you a little bit about me. I have been a realtor since 2016. Actually, I got my license in 15, but I kind of like didn't really do anything until 2016. I've had a number of former lives that have been very interesting. Being a realtor, though, is probably the hardest job that I have ever done. It's also the most lucrative. You'll notice that one of the things that I've done is I was the publisher of a lifestyle magazine in Houston, and I was the editor-in-chief. And so I'm sure you're all thinking, well, she was an editor for a magazine. She can do this. Sure, she can do this, but I can't do this. But my goal today is to give you a formula that you can do this yourself. And I've developed this over since 2016. It hasn't always looked the way it looks. So I started it was just a newsletter. But before I was a new agent, and I was sending out emails to people, buyers and prospective buyers who had come through my open house. And I was sending them personalized emails every week with houses that I thought would interest them. Well, that was not repeatable or sustainable. It was a giant time suck every week. And so at one open house that I was doing, a woman came in, and this just kind of popped into my head. I still don't know where it came from, but I said to her, would you like to get my weekly email that gives you the newest listings and the newest things about real estate in the Heights? I call it Becky's Best Bungalow Bets. Pulled it right out of the air. Did not exist. But then I had to actually do it, right? And so I promoted this 100% just at open houses. And the good news is when you do this at an open house, people will give you accurate information. To get the value proposition I was offering to them was weekly insider information. So with key on insider information, and who doesn't want that? And in order to get that, they would give me a real live email address. And 95% of the people who come through my open houses or Mark's open houses will sign up for the blog. And I have people who have been following this blog since 2016. Right now, about 67% of my subscribers have come from open houses. In September of 16, after just a couple of months, I realized that I needed to put this information someplace. And so we created a website so that I had someplace to put it. And then I could link I put pretty much the same content from the email also on the web, although the web version is an expanded email. I give more content because I want people to go to the website as well, not just read it on Sunday morning while they're having coffee. And then in February of 21, all this time I had been linking the addresses back to our local MLS, which of course got me zero, right? They just went into the ether. But we added we changed our website, and we have one that has an IDX integration. So now I'm linking back to my own website. And now I have some really good statistics. I will show you. Right now I have about 715 subscribers. That's not a huge number, and you can see that we kind of plateaued because we stopped doing open houses in the pandemic. And so we are pivoting. We're building back up on our open houses, but we're also adding social media and trying to get additional readership from other sources other than just open houses. As I said, current active subscribers, 715, but on average, 60% of my subscribers open it every week. With a click rate back to my website of about 13%. Now, when I give you these stats, they're not all really great stats, but it's still making money. So I'm just trying to show you, you don't have to do something wild and amazing to make this work. So, and I have a really low unsubscribe rate to it. On my web analytics, so pushing people from my email to the web is one of my objectives. And what I have right now, in fact, for the past 12 months, I'm now up to 23,000 website visits. And I am driving almost every one of them through my blog, through my email. My bounce rate, and you can tell that my bounce rate is 70.8. That is a really high bounce rate. What that means is people are coming into my website, they're for a specific, they might be looking at a listing, they might be looking at one of my other posts. They're coming in specifically from that, and they're bouncing back out, but they're still coming. So to give you basically what I call the receipts for the energy and the effort that I have put into this, I spend about $400 a month in hard costs on my blog. That's $100 to MailChimp, $300 to the website people, and an additional case of Diet Coke because I've mainlined Diet Coke while I'm writing this thing. Then I spend about 8 hours a week creating the content, and I do that 46 to 48 weeks out of the year. Over Christmas, as you know, there is like zero happening in real estate. And so that's a good time to just kind of take a break. So since 2016, this has generated about 1.2 million in gross commissions. So, and some of those things are people who have signed up for the email in 2015. They came through the open house. They may have had an agent when they came through the open house. They may have even bought a house from that agent, but I have been dripping on them for years. And so when they sell their house, they're calling me to sell their house. And some people come through the open house and they've got an agent. But as you know, just because they have an agent doesn't mean they actually buy a house from that agent. And so I get a lot of business from that way, from people who may have previously been represented by somebody else, but because I'm showing them that I am the neighborhood expert, that they want to work with me. So giving you just the basics, the rules. So if you follow, these are my basic rules. You have to be authentic. This has to be you and you writing. You can't, there are parts of it you could have somebody else write for you, but basically the magic is you becoming the neighborhood expert. And to do that, you have to do most of this work yourself. So you have to be consistent. I do this every Sunday, and which means that my weekends are not fun because I'm doing this sometimes in the middle of the night because I'm a realtor and you're writing contracts on Saturday evening. Things get in the way, but you have to be consistent. Now, I send it out on Sundays, generally around noon. I don't want my readers to get in the habit of expecting that it's always going to come at noon on the dot, because life doesn't work that way, and sometimes there's some flexibility. But what's really interesting is it doesn't matter what time of the day I send that email, I get the same open rate. And in fact, last week, MailChimp shut me down because I needed to re-authenticate myself under some new rules or something. And so I couldn't send it out on Sunday because there's no technical support available on Sunday. And I sent it out on Monday. I actually got a 65% open rate, but sending out on Monday. I do not know what that means. I don't know how to interpret that. I don't know if that means I should always send it out on Monday. So adding value, the biggest thing is when I'm writing, I always think I need to tell them something they don't know. And that can come either through the lifestyle portion of it or through the listings that I'm highlighting. Other rules, proofread. Read it again, have somebody else read it, and check your links, because nobody wants to go to a bad link. Oh, sense of humor. Yes. I started out being a lot snarkier than I am today, trying to making just comments about the homes, such as thinking something that just strikes me. Like one of the houses had 4 outdoor porches, and I'm thinking, what in the world do you do with 4 outdoor porches? Well, you put all your kids in timeout in a separate porch, or you put yourself in timeout. And so just giving them just a, not really information, but just something kind of cute and clever. Things that I said double check your links. Okay, I generate the web and the email content simultaneously. The things that are different in the email, I have the opportunity to do I do a featured open house. That's where I get to do my thing. And as opposed to the listings that I'm highlighting, where I'm being very editorial, when I'm promoting an open house, that's where I get to market and tell them how great my listing is, that I'm doing the open house for. The content formula that I follow is basically 4 things. There's a lifestyle component to it, and that is where I'm telling people about current events, things that are happening in the neighborhood, different community things that are interesting things about the community. Like last week or week before last, because I was going to docent at a home tour, I did a blog, and this was like a subdivision, a little historical district within my area. I did a blog about what was special about Norhill and giving them just what I consider to be fun facts about this area. And it was a real hit when I was docenting, that I was able to give them this kind of information. Let's talk about your community. The area that you choose, it needs to be small enough that the people within it identify themselves as a community. And it may be, and some of these people don't live in the community right now, but you're telling them about everything about the community that you live in. And my community is pretty weird. And so don't think that, hey, my neighborhood, I can't do this in my neighborhood. If you want to, am very happy to talk to you about your neighborhood and help you to pull out what is special and unique and how you can do it. My neighborhood has 7 historical districts in it, and all with different rules. It has parts of it have flooded. So there's a lot of different subdivisions. So there's a lot of stuff going on in my neighborhood. You can have a $2 million house sitting next to a $500,000 bungalow. There's just a lot of variety and a lot of different things. And also we're in Houston, so there is no zoning. The only kind of zoning that we have is the historic districts. And so, there may be a little apartment complex out there, or there may be a store, a convenience store. Around, there may be some commercial influences in there. So it's not all perfect. So lifestyle content, then you are curating listings. You are selecting out of your area 5 or so listings each week that you're going to feature. Now, these are what I consider to be the best listings that came on the market that week, but not necessarily price-wise. It has nothing to do with price. I don't tell anybody that a listing is fairly priced or not fairly priced. I don't even address it. The market will address what the price is. I'm just telling people what is interesting about the houses that have come on the market. So after the listings, I'm also updating it. Once I select a house to be on my blog, I own that until it sells. I am following that house until it sells. And I am telling people in the blog or in the web content or the web version, I am telling them things like price changes that have happened, things that have gone under contract. Things in this past year, it's been very important to, with the way the market was turning so fast, and the offers, you were getting crazy offers like $100,000 over on a $500,000 house, crazy stuff. But people needed to know how to manage their own situation. Buyers needed that information to see how much should I offer on a house. And so I was giving them an additional tool to use. I also do each week just a quick market snapshot, and I'll show you that in just a minute. As I said, I send it weekly, every week on Sunday, sometime on Sunday. Okay, this is what it looks like. Now, the cards that you have on the chairs, there's a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to this website. So you'll be able to see what it looks like in real time. But this is just what what it appears when people go into the web. So there are 2 posts each week that are important. The first is the weekly update, but then what I call Becky's Best Bungalow Bets still on my list. And this is where I'm following all those houses I've reviewed before. And so it's really cool that I can tell people who have come through an open house or whatever, go out to my still on my list, see what, see what's out there. And as I said, I follow them till they sell, which is sometimes painful. You have to be careful which ones you pick because sometimes these things can be on there for a long time. Okay, so here's how to make that curated property list. The basic requirements. Good photography. Thank you, HGTV, for teaching us that people like to look at pictures of real estate. We all call it real estate porn is my term for it. So it has to have good photography. I don't care who's listed it. It can be any brokerage. It can be any other agent. I am identifying on each one. I tell them the brokerage that is presenting it. That's what the rules of my MLS have me do. I don't have to ask permission to use a listing. I just have to identify the brokerage that it comes from. You may have a different situation. You may have to go to people and ask them if you can put it on there. Basic rules, always include your own listings. And that is really the only way you get a guaranteed spot on my list. And I have agents calling me each week saying, hey, I got this new thing coming up. And I appreciate that, but there's no guarantee. And I will have to tell you, if I go out on a listing appointment and I don't get the deal, you're dead to me. It has to be spectacular for me to then include it on it. I know that's a little petty, but this is a marketing tool. This is what my sellers get from me is they get this additional marketing tool. And as I said, any price point, but I also want to show variety. Now I call this Becky's Best Bungalow Bets, but it is not only bungalows. It's different house style, different home styles, new construction, contemporary, whatever happens to be in the neighborhood. I just like alliteration. And as I said, that's just what came out of my mouth that day, and now I'm living with it. And these are the things that you want to include on each post. And it's going to be different for your neighborhood. I've pulled out the things that people ask me about a home. What are they concerned about? And in my neighborhood, I want to tell them which neighborhood within my neighborhood, which subdivision it is in, whether it is in a historic district, because that's an important fact. I tell them what the style of house is. It's kind of fun for me because we do have all the historic homes, and I can tell them what the style of a house, whether it's a Craftsman or a Queen Anne or all those kind of fun things. I tell them when it was built. I tell them if I know, I try to figure out who the builder was and to tell them who the builder was. And so I start from the top, and my goal is, so I have this preset list and I'm filling in the blanks. And so I start at the top. I tell them the first 3 things. I tell them how many bedrooms, how many baths, how big the lot is, those statistics. Then I go to the bottom and with my formula, and I tell them what elementary school is zoned to, because that's important in my area. People care about which elementary school it's zoned to. I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
Okay. Okay, let me just repeat the question. She's asking, what do I mean by hero photo? Hero photo is just a terminology that's used in the webs for a big, beautiful picture, a hero photo. And I'm sorry, you had a question as well, and I didn't. Do you remember what that was? Or
as far as right, you said it's people sign up for your email and you write them for your blog. What about organically and use videos to highlight, especially your business possibly?
okay, so his question is, and actually I'm going to have you get to the mic because that was kind of long, and I want the people, this is being recorded, and I want everybody to hear what the question is. Okay, and hopefully we'll have some, I'm kind of blasting through this, so we'll have some time for questions as well.
Do you focus on maybe driving organic traffic to your blog, and have you ever incorporated video, especially with your listings?
That is a very good point. And as I said, we have been evolving. I mean, this has been evolving. This has gone from a paragraph, a brief email with 5 listings with a link to the MLS to what you see today. And absolutely video, that's the next thing that I'm going to add is video, because that would be very helpful as well. And I'm also looking at other ways to get people to read the blog using social media, some advertising. So that's my next step, in evolution of what I'm doing here today. So as I said, filling in the blanks. In my area, elementary schools are hot, but also if you see at the bottom on this one listing, it says curb street, and you're thinking, what does that have to do with anything? But in my neighborhood, that's important because some streets are curbed and some streets have open culverts on it. Even if you have a $2 million house, you may have an open culvert in front of your house, but you have to know where to park your car. And so that little space is where I tell them either that there's a parking pad or there is a curb street, or it gives them an idea that they have some place to park their car. And then you have everything in the middle, and that's where you're doing your research.
So sorry.
Okay. Okay. So sorry. So sorry. Okay. Now I'm going to start from the beginning. Just kidding. All right. So it's the middle part where you're going to show your expertise in the neighborhood, and you're going to tell them what you find interesting. Sometimes it's not all that special. You look at this one, you're going, it's not really special, but sometimes there's some very interesting things that you want to pull out. I go back and I look at where the house has been listed previously. I see what has been done to the house. And I tell people, last time it was a 2-1 bungalow. Today it's a 3-2. Well, it's been expanded. And so I tell them what's going on with that listing. And I do a little bit of research, and I can absolutely go down a rabbit hole when I'm doing this, because I'm very much, it's just interesting to me, all of this information that you can find out. And so things, then I give them kind of at the end of it, just a statement that's just telling them something special about the house that's more community oriented, that tells them that you can walk 2 blocks over and get a cup of coffee at Second Cup, or you're right next to the hike and bike trail. Or something fun about the house, such as little fun facts, historical fun facts that I pull out and add to it. Now, as you see at the box, there's a box that says schedule a tour. Well, would you like to take a guess as to how many people have ever clicked that box? 0. Nobody has ever clicked that box, but it's still there because the people who are reading it don't know that. They don't know that but it's a call to action. And where they may not take that specific action, it's a call to action. So do include a call to action in what you're doing.
On your curated list selection, when you're choosing a property, what if it's
Grab the mic. There.
when you're choosing a property for the curated list, what if it's a good handyman special, or somebody who wants to put some sweat equity into their own home?
Well, then we call it a fixer-upper. And sometimes I don't typically on a week-to-week basis do the fixer-uppers, but I might do 1 week where I'm doing fixer-uppers. Or I may have a theme for that week. Now, remember, it's very careful. Do not put lipstick on a pig. You are an editor, and you don't want to puff this stuff, because somebody's going to walk into that house and go, she said this was a really great house, and this house is, no. Be as and remember, there's a seller who owns this house, who is invested in this house and loves this house, and you don't want to hurt their feelings, and you don't want them to then be able to badmouth you because you said something about their house. Now, I will tell them things like, could use some paint, or I can tell them what the next upgrade would be. Or what I would suggest, or, for example, I might tell them that to improve the house, flip the garage around to the backside, because in the Heights we have a lot of alleyways, and so to gain additional yard space, flip the garage around off the alley and gain all that yard space back. So I try to give them that kind of information when I find it or when I think about it. So that's the list. Any other questions on the real estate piece with the list? Okay, so the lifestyle content is at the top of both the blog on the blog and the email. And lifestyle content is just 1 to 3 paragraphs going back to tell them something they don't know. And that might be events that are happening in the neighborhood. Once a month, the third week of the month, it's always a deep dive into the market statistics and what's been happening specifically in this neighborhood is in terms of real estate. It could be sometimes, okay, like one of my headlines was about something smelly, and it was telling them the importance of, and my tagline was, why is your realtor sniffing around your house? And it was just, as you know, that when a buyer walks into a house, there's exactly 7 seconds before they decide that doesn't mean they want the house, but they know they don't want it. And so one of the things is, of course, in that 7 seconds, how many breaths are they taking? And so it's important. So smell is important. So I'll tell them, sometimes like that. And you just have to, as you're going through your week, think of something that you might tell them. When I was putting this presentation together and I wanted to give you demographics for my area, well, I didn't have any demographics specifically for my area because it's a smaller subset. But so I'm thinking that I'm going to find that out, and I'm going to do one on who's your neighbor. So that kind of now you would like to have evergreen content. And that is something that you could actually repurpose at another time by modifying, or sometimes, it's 5 years later, I just do it again. And I have one for Halloween. That's just a fun list of things that are unique about Halloween in our neighborhoods. And it's kind of funny. And so I'll do that almost every year or every other year. My most successful, so listicles are good. My most successful blog post that got almost 70% open rates was on ice cream shops. It didn't have any real estate at all in this one. It was the 4th of July. And so we have 10 ice cream shops. I went to all 10 ice cream shops. I found out what was their favorite flavor, what was people's favorite flavor, what was their most unique flavor. And I use the same kind of format that I did with the houses, and to tell them, again, trying to tell them something interesting about why you would go to this shop. So if you have this, and this is evergreen content that you can repurpose again. So think of those kind of things that you might want to do. And you can, those are the kind of things that you can do in advance and not at Saturday night at 11 o'clock. So the formula for the listing updates. Now I told you that there's a difference between the email and the web content. The web content doesn't have the featured open house because that's not timely. People are typically opening the email if they're really interested on Sunday before the open houses happen, so they can see an open house. Now this blog drives open house traffic. And so typically back when open houses were more of a thing and we're getting back into it, I would have 5 or 6 people come to the open house every week off the blog. And so on the blog itself, I have information to drive people, additional information to get to. That is where I go back and I'm owning those houses that I've reviewed before. And I am telling them about price changes. I'm telling them if something goes under contract, how many days was it on the market? And that's a really important thing for people to know, because during this last year of insanity, 54% of all new listings went under contract in 7 days. So, that tells you, you got to be on it. You have to be watching. And I think now we're down to about 40% go under contract. But that's also why you can't do this very far in advance, because if you do it at the beginning of the week, the houses you featured may no longer be available. And during in the spring, I would, even between Saturday and Sunday, I would be having to put update, under contract, update, under contract. So it was, as I think you all, it was a challenging time. This past year has been really challenging, great, but very challenging. So I also tell them on sold properties, and this is information that in Texas you cannot get. You can't get it off of Zillow or any of the those type of realtor websites, because we're a non-disclosure state. So the prices are not published. However, I can publish them, and so I tell them how much the house sold for. How much did it sell for over market? What was the original price it was listed for? And what was the price that it went under contract at? How many days was it on the market? Did the seller make a contribution to the person, to either repairs or to buyer closing costs? And I tell them who paid for the title. Because again, and I adapt, that was something I started adding because when we had all the multiple offers and things going on, that was important, because that was another thing that somebody could do to improve their chances of getting the listing. The reason I do it is because it drives the web traffic. And so the last piece of it, or of the formula, is this at a glance market stats. I do this every week, and I tell them how many homes are for sale, what's the months of inventory on hand, how many new listings were there, and how many new contracts. This is in 20, inventory has been incredibly low. So I think back in the heydays of 2018 and 2019, when I would have as many as 54 properties that were still on my list. Okay, during the past year, I got down to where I could only keep 5 or 6 on my list. Because houses were turning so fast. But people like to see this. And that sometimes is one of my opening sentences. Before I get into my lifestyle content, I will just give them a brief thing about, gosh, this time, like last week, nothing was happening in the Heights. Why was nothing happening? Because the Astros were playing baseball. Nobody was paying, real estate was not what people were doing last week. So, but I'm sorry. Yes, next week we're going to be doing it again. Thank you. Yes, go Astros. So that's the last little piece of that. So this is how to be the go-to local expert. As I tell people, there are people that sell more real estate in the Heights than I do. However, nobody can out-Heights me on information about the Heights. I am by far the local expert on real estate in the Heights. And so, but what we want to do is we want to make each week easy. So first thing we talked about, defining your neighborhood. That's number one. Sometimes even tricky areas to find, you can do it. I often tease, there's another area in the Heights, not in the Heights, in Houston. It's called Bel Air. Totally opposite from the Heights. Big lots, 5,000 square foot houses, big houses. And I think, what would I do there? Because there's so much conformity. And so I would have to think about how I'm going to present these houses that where there is so many things that are alike about them. And so then you have to figure out, how do you pull out something that's different? Do your homework, save searches, and I keep my own Excel property tracker. So I have tracked on an Excel spreadsheet every house I've ever reviewed, and I've reviewed about 1,600 homes over the past, since I started this. I used to go and preview the homes so that I would see them, but the market has been turning too fast. That's just not possible. Also, over the years, I've become very good at looking at the photographs and telling exactly what's happening in the house. And especially like among bungalows, I know what the layout is. I can tell the modifications. So I don't do as much previewing, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do if you can. You also want to stay plugged in. You want to sign up for every newsletter. You want to read. Do you guys have Nextdoor? That social media, that's a cesspool of comments from people about lost pets and people they don't like and their bad neighbors and all that other kind of stuff. So, but then you get information from it. So you got to go on it. That's another place that you are posting to gain to show your authority in the area and your knowledge. So I sign up for I get all kinds of newsletters. Every time a listing comes on the market that's a single family home in my area, I get a notification of it. So I'm always really on top of what I'm doing. Okay, so these are the things that are going to make your life easier. These are tools of the trade. They are, first of all, the no-brainers that I just said, safe searches, the MLS, but then wordsmithing. Some people think they can't write. Or they just freeze. The key to breaking through that is the formula, this is how it is. We're filling in the blanks. So that helps you with the wording. Oh, I only have 5 minutes left. Okay, going really fast. Okay, so there are tools. I don't know if you've ever heard of Quillbot. If you have a college-age kid, I guarantee you they know it because it will write papers for you. So Quillbot and Copy AI, and there's other ones out there, you can put in a sentence because you just can't, it's just not coming to you. So you just put in the few words and you tell it, I want this to sound creative, I want this to sound professional, I want this to sound, and it will spit out different iterations of it. That's really helpful. It's also great when you're trying to do your picture captions on your listings and you can't figure out another way to say this is amazing, this is gorgeous, this is, yeah. So it's really helpful with that. Grammarly is the #1 tool because it's spelling and grammar. And they're all relatively inexpensive tools to use. As I said, I use Excel to track things. I use Excel to do my graphs. And then I use Canva to do my market stats, my market updates. I even actually do my graphs. And to your point about video, I have been learning how to do video through Canva so that I can enhance what I'm doing on here. Okay, here's the side effects of doing this. If you do this and you are consistent, you will get more listings because you have a built-in marketing tool. In fact, most of the sales that we have made have been sellers, not buyers. So all changes in representation. You aren't trying to steal somebody else's client, but you will. So they will come to you. Team recruitment, they're agents who want to do what we're doing. So it's a great recruiting tool for us. But my favorite, and this is good for me because believe it or not, I am an introvert. I will have to go back to the hotel room tonight and just chill to be able to get up the next day. But this works for people who have phone reluctance, who are, don't want to pick up the phone, because I am dripping on these people every week with a high value touch every week. And so if I picked up the phone, would it be more successful? Of course it would, but you don't have to, or as much, because as soon as I get home with the open house sign sheets, I put the information in there, and I send them a copy of this week's. I link it to this week's, and say, this may go into your spam. Check next week, make sure it didn't go into your spam. I may send them another email if I'm being really good about with my CRM. I'll send another email and say, hey, did you get it? The next week, hey, did you get it? So I keep track of that. The other side effect, of course, is revenue generation, because this is the only lead, this continues to generate leads year after year. And so, okay, did I convince you that you can do this? So, all right, you have my card. Feel free to call me and we can, oh, I have 5 minutes. Oh, I thought, okay, he lied to me. We have 5 minutes. So let's do some questions here. Yes, let's grab the microphone.
So what is the subject line of your email?
Okay, so let's go back here. There's a slide here. And maybe what? Oh gosh, we have to keep going through the click. I don't know if they show this in your book, but here's like a sample of my archive. Okay, so neither can I. Okay, so I always start with how many listings I'm doing. So I will say 4 new or fab 4. I will tell them, or like this week, I couldn't find a listing to feature to save my life. There were only 8 new listings, and they all did not meet the criteria except for one. And this was the first week I actually put a mid-rise condo on my list, because I've always concentrated on single family. This was a very unique condo. I was able to tell people that this building was built in the 50s. It was the original Southwestern Bell building, and it was repurposed in 2017 into urban chic homes, high value urban chic homes. So I was able to, it wasn't just, hey, I'm going to slap this condo on here because I don't have anything else to talk about. Let me tell you what's interesting about this complex. And then so I'm telling you how many, giving them an idea of how many I'm doing. And then I say something that's basically, hopefully gets them to click. So to read it, I might say, like one of them would be a little trash talk. Everybody opens that one because they want to, that's really wants to know that. Well, what I'm talking about is a local app that will tell you when garbage is going to be picked up and when it's recycling and all that other kind of good stuff. So I try to give them a title that relates to what I'm talking about, but it's just kind of clever is what my goal is.
Do you have an actual title of the email, like subject line?
Oh, well, it is Becky's
got it.
Becky's best bungalow
Got it.
bets for the week of. Bang, colon, how many listings? Clever something.
Is it organized where people can go back and see 10 weeks ago what you posted?
Yes, on the website, you can keep going back and see everything I've done, and you can see all the titles. Stormy weather ahead. That was about flood insurance, or making sure that you have flood insurance. I told them about changes with FEMA 2.0 with floods. So I'm giving them that information because we do have areas that flood. Okay, I have to wrap this up. As I said, I am going to be here. You've got my card. I'm happy to talk to you about how you can do this too. Thank you for coming. I live in the Heights, and I've lived in the Heights for 30 years. So But, you know, I've contemplated if I didn't have to, because it takes 8 hours a week. Actually, it probably takes a little bit more than that because I go down a rabbit hole. You know, I might find out that one of these bungalows was actually Sears and Roebuck. So it was ordered and it was trucked in to site. I go down a rabbit hole because I'm finding this fun stuff. So it can take longer than that. And of course, then selling the real estate takes even longer than that. So
Thank you so much. Thank you, Coach Mark, for talking about it.
Oh, sure.
Because this is.
well, I'm glad nobody from Houston was in here. Nobody from Houston was in here. So